Well, there is a growing interest in organic gardening combined with risk, perceived or not, uh, related to with traditional synthetic products, and so that has increased the attention in our natural products. Now, I've mentioned two different things here: organic and natural. Organic is the USDA organic certified, and usually a home owner is not organically certified officially. However, the natural products, I think a lot of us just, let things come and go. And natural products are usually, we try our best to use things that we feel will inflict less harm, maybe on the environment or our pets or ourselves and that sort of thing. But our horticulture oils that we're talking about today are petroleum derived, just where exactly like gasoline. And also there are some plant-based oils. So they're a group of natural pest control that can be used in your garden. Now, even though we're talking about natural, which is in, I say that in quotation marks, it is still a herbicide, pesticide, insecticide, and they are registered. So if you're buying them on your local big box store or gardening center shelf. So don't forget, you need to check the label for plants with known tolerance to oil sprays or intolerance, because there are some. And also you need to check that label to make sure it's treating the pest you're trying to treat. And also remember that it's a violation of federal law to use these products in a manner that is inconsistent with its labeling. Just remember, the label is the law. Now, what's the difference? We have dormant oils, horticultural oils, and I've even thrown in insecticidal soaps because they are considered a natural product. So we're going to discuss the differences between this, but mainly we'll hit on the horticultural oils. Okay, so our dormant oils, they are derived from paraffinitic crude oil. So they're not as distilled or like that horticultures might be, or horticulture oil might be. They're heavy, and it says they're low unsulfonated, which means they don't have as much sulfur in them, but they don't have that residue, but they do still have sulfur in them. Of course, as with anything, proper timing is critical when using dormant oil sprays. And for the most part, when you're applying them to, say, fruit trees, well, just about anything that you would apply it to. Dormant, of course, is the key word there. You need to apply it in late winter or very early spring before, let's say, if we're talking about apple trees or something, you need to do that before bud break. That's before you ever see the buds on the trees start to bud out. Dormant oils work by suffocating the pest, and we'll find that almost all of these oils work that way. They're typically applied when the temperature will remain at 40 degrees or above for 24 hours. And that's sort of critical there, because sometimes if it is applied below freezing, or if it's not going to remain above 40 degrees for at least 24 hours, the cold freezing temperatures will cause the oil to break down, and the oil will then adhere to like bark and leaves and not to the targeted insect stage you're trying to kill. Now, dormant oils on all of these are usually, if you buy them in the store, you may have to buy them as a concentrate. And you'll see on our picture down in the lower left corner, it says concentrate on the label, which means you have to mix it, usually maybe with water, to bring it up. And so for dormant oils, you usually just use 2 to 4% of the oil with water to your water. It suffocates the insects or mites that overwinter on eggs or mature females. That's what we're targeting here. And in the pictures you see, we have the pine needle scale. Dormant oils would work on scale there to help suffocate before they begin to emerge in the spring. And also the other top right picture there are actually, excuse me, are actually tent caterpillars. They have, actually it's sort of a nice looking little egg case there, unusual. It has a nice glossy surface. It almost looks like it's been lacquered onto the stem, but dormant oils will work to take care of those if they coat it completely. And then down below you see woolly maple scales. They will also take care of that. Okay, now when I said we needed to apply these generally at bud break in the late winter, that is based on phenology, which refers to the timing of the seasons, and it's biological events like, you know, when birds start to migrate, when trees start to flower, you know, even when animals go into hibernation. And it also applies of when to spray your trees and plants because it's influenced by climatic factors. Okay, so that seems pretty easy to digest there. But however, think of you Kentuckians of our past winter. We had warm up in February when it felt like spring and people were ready to put on their shorts and get out in their garden. And then it would get cold again, and March was cooler than February. And it was just up and down like that all winter long. And a lot of trees actually, you know, broke dormancy, budded up, and even some of them leaved out a little bit, only to have another freeze come along or a frost, and that affected it. So you know, it's not so straightforward as you think. However, as long as you remember you're wanting to target your plants or your trees before they break bud. So you would have to keep a good eye on that. Now we're going to move on to our horticultural oils. Historically, all oils were considered dormant oils. They were only sprayed, again, in the dormant stage. However, as the refining processes began to improve, they were able to develop lighter weight oils that contain no sulfur, and we're talking about the petroleum-derived oils. They may be less likely to burn plants than traditional dormant oils, and when they were mixed in proper concentrations, they can even be applied during the growing season when plants are in full leaf. Now, the forms you're going to find your horticultural oil in is either in a bottle of concentrate, where again, you have to dilute it, and you will find all of that information on your label, or you're ready to spray formulations. Usually those are really nice. You just pick them off the shelf and take them home and begin to spray. But you always want to read the label. And then again, these sometimes are more expensive if you compare ounce to ounces with the concentrate and the ready to spray. They may be a little more expensive per ounce. Okay, what do the horticultural oils, what are we trying to target with horticultural oils? They target soft body insects and mites. You have to have direct contact of the horticultural oil, and it works by either smothering or in some cases repelling. Usually our horticultural oils act quickly. You don't have to wait around for the insects to start dropping. Of course, it's considered to be of low toxicity to animals and the plant and humans. It even can be used as a low-risk fungicide for the suppression. Now, remember, fungicides do not cure. They only are used as a preventative or suppression of these fungal diseases. And it can be used for powdery mildew, rust, and sooty mold. And it seems like this summer here, we've had already seeing a lot of powdery mildew and some of that sooty mold from aphids. Aphids have gone crazy, it seems like, this summer in Scott County. It has a broad spectrum action, which means that any insect that comes in contact with it can be affected. However, the good thing about it, it has limited residual activity, which means that you put it on, but it doesn't stay actively killing your insects for very long. And you think, well, that's no good, but actually it can help avoid harm to beneficial insects and other organisms. Because of the LAR, it can't prevent an insect reinvasion. You know, if you kill off some aphids, you don't get them all, or they're on a plant next to you, they can come and invade, and you'll just have to reapply it. Okay, so usually horticultural oils are made of mineral oils, but some can be made from grains, vegetables. We have neem oil, some vegetable oils. Once dry, they do not have much effect, and at that time, they become safer for pollinators and beneficial insects. Rule of thumb is, though, if you are spraying plants or trees or whatever that may come in contact that, you know, have pollinators, or pollinators, you know, would be usually visiting those plants. A good rule of thumb is to either spray at dawn or dusk. And these are times when the pollinators are not active or not very active. So also, horticultural oils are excellent control of scale, all types of scales, aphids, whiteflies, spider mites, caterpillar and sawfly larvae, and more. Usually it's recommended to, if you're going from concentrate, 2% solution. However, what you do need to remember about your horticultural oils, and that's all of them, and dormant and just your newly refined, are that some plants are very sensitive to them, like Japanese red maples, hickory, black walnut, smoke tree, the blue spruces, redbud, juniper, cedar. All of those plants can be very sensitive to the oils. And what this means is it can cause injury to the plant, discoloration, yellowing. It can cause leaf browning and flower browning, which, you know, eventually they die. You can have black spots. The other thing you want to make sure you do or do not do is apply during high humidity and high temperatures, because this has humidity and high temperatures have a toxic effect on our plant growth. So here you see a picture. This is supposed to be a blue spruce. However, they had someone has sprayed it with a horticultural oil. So you see it takes off that waxy cuticle layer that is blue on blue spruces. And, you know, it does this on other things as well, because they're very sensitive to it. Now, I am told, and research shows, that it can sort of grow out of that. But just know that, you know, if you're going to spray a blue spruce, that it may discolor the needles. Also, plants that have really hairy leaves can be sensitive to the oil, because they sort of retain it longer with all those hairs and that sort of thing. Also, plants under drought stress, that increases injury because the plant is weakened because of the drought. And it's recommended that you never apply horticultural oils when the temperatures start to exceed 90 degrees. So a lot of us have had some 90-degree temperatures, and that is not a time. Wait until it cools off to apply any kind of horticultural oil. In this group of horticultural oil, I know probably you all have heard of like neem oil. Neem oil is extracted from the seeds of the neem tree, and I have some pictures there for you. It has at least 2 compounds that we know that kill the insects, but it has some other unidentified compounds that have fungicidal qualities, which can make it a fungicide, or you can use it as that in some situations. It's most effective on actively growing immature insects. So you want to try to get those insects early if you can. It's a repellent, a feeding deterrent, because it says that those seeds are very bitter, and I assume the oil is too. It can be a growth regulator, and all of these depend on the formulation or the percentage of how much neem is within the solution. So neem oil used at 70% solution can be used as a fungicide for, again, powdery mildew, but it's less effective on some of the others, such as black spot, leaf spot diseases. Citrus oils, which are extracted from citrus fruit peels, they are refined, and the insecticidal compounds that makes them so effective are limonene or D-limonene and linalool. Both compounds are generally regarded as safe for mammals by the USDA. They have no residual activities like all oils do. They evaporate very quickly from treated surfaces. They are registered for use against fleas, aphids, and mites, but was said in some of the research that compounds also can kill fire ant workers, several types of flies, paper wasps, and house crickets. Now, I've got a little no, don't do that, because it just said it can also kill, and unless that's on the label, you're breaking the law if you use it for those things. So cautiously use these products to minimize leaf burn on sensitive plants. They can cause leaf burn. And again, just read that label. Now, at the very end of this, I also added insecticidal soap, because they're all sort of thrown in there together sometimes. Somebody said, can I use a horticultural oil or an insecticidal soaps? So they're all sometimes thought of as, all about the same thing. Insecticidal soaps, however, are made not from oils, but potassium salts of fatty acids. And so they are a different type of formulation and have different active ingredients. They can be applied as a foliar application. They can be effective on a wide range of plants, such anything that's soft-bodied, like aphids, lace bugs, leafhoppers, thrips, sawfly larvae, spider mites, and white flies. Again, contact is the very best, works the best to kill those pests. And the way it does kill pests is that it actually, instead of smothering, it disrupts the structure and the permeability of the insect cell membrane. So really, they just I always picture them just sort of melting and oozing away on the inside. Once dry, it's not effective, but once dry, another reason for maybe using these instead of other things is that they become safer for pollinators and beneficial insects. And again, if you just have to spray, but you have a lot of pollinators that visit your plants, try to spray at dawn or dusk, and this will help you to avoid a lot of pollinators. Anything over like 3% or over can cause leaf energy or injury or flower injury. and that's 3% solution. Even it has been known like that a 1.5% solution can cause injury to some of the sensitive plants. And again, I put read the product label in throughout here, but it's just so important. And you just don't realize how many times I've had folks call me and say, well, I sprayed this and I've sprayed that and I've sprayed that. And I said, well, what is your problem? Well, I'm not sure. Well, for any product to work, it has to be a product that is targeted for your problem. And for you to know that, you actually have to know, well, what's going on with this. You just don't want to try to play hit or miss. That wastes your money, and it also is bad for the environment. So for insecticidal soaps, some of the sensitive plants are like horse chestnuts, mountain ash, Japanese maple, sweet gum, jade plant, lantana, gardenia, bleeding heart, sweet peas, and cultivars of azalea and begonias and chrysanthemums and fuchsia and impatiens. All of those perennials and annuals that you may have in your garden. So remember, they are sensitive to it. Read your label, see what it recommends. And also, and I have actually been guilty of this before, but do not prepare your own spray from dishwashing detergents or other household cleaners. It can be sweet peas. Well, it can be toxic to plants. Yeah, just because your formulation may be off. You know, when you really needed just a very little of it, you applied to say, hey, if we're going to apply it, let's really sock it to it. And this can cause some problems, especially for sensitive plants. Now, I have a list of terms here. Some of them I went over or talked about in the program, but some of them I have not. But this is here for your information. I have sent a handout of this program to Kelly, and he always gets them on our Kentucky Hort News website for you to be able to print off or even just look at if you need some information there, along with the video of today's program. Again, I can't go without saying this enough. Don't forget, check the label for targeted insects, for plants that it can be used on, you know, how it needs to be used. And remember, the label is the law. Here are my resources. Again, those will be on that handout that we have.